Hey folks, this is Bfly Bricks, and this is my mock of one of Piet Mondrian's most famous paintings. Painted in 1921, it's got the catchy title of Composition with Large Red Plane, Yellow, Black, Grey and Blue. My version is 30 by 30 studs in height and width, with a 2-stud tan coloured frame around the edge. For the purpose of this video, I'm filming it on a table, but it does of course have a hook and it has been hung up on the wall. It's just way easier to film like this. In the original painting, you might notice there are some very faintly coloured grey panels. I have rather controversially decided to make them white in my version, as I did try it originally with grey, but they were really too dark. So I went back to white, so I've kind of failed I suppose in making an accurate version. But what's the point, you ask? Well, I just think it suits the white better, and in the original painting the grey is so light, it's almost impossible to tell the difference between that and the white from a distance. Of all Mondrian's paintings, this may not be the most famous, but to me it's the most definitive and the most representative of what his style was. During the period in the 20s and 30s, he consistently churned out very similar paintings with the blocks of colour, the solid black lines, often with a large coloured block or plane, and I personally think that this one with the large red plane is fantastic. I have a little bit of wall space in amongst my modular collection, so I wanted to make something interesting that stands out. And at first glance, you wouldn't even know it was Lego. I love it. There is one downside though, as at some angles it reflects light, which can be a bit frustrating, but you often get that with paintings which are in a frame with glass on it as well, so just one of those things. I also have to be careful not to expose it to direct sunlight, as the white tiles will become yellow, so it depends where you're going to put this, as you don't want that to happen. It might not show well on camera, but I ran out of red 2x2 tiles, so I had to use some longer ones. In fact, I used a mixture of 1x6, 2x6 and 2x4 white, blue and yellow tiles because I have the right sized ones in use on other projects, so I just a bit of a mishmash for this one. Another oddity is that to get a symmetrical white section here, I needed to put a black tile on jumper plates to get the right dissection of the white tiles. It works, but it leaves a raised black tile. I didn't like it at first, but I actually think it's brilliant to have this one protruding 3-dimensional black line protruding from the surface. It's a reminder that this is actually made of Lego and constructed rather than painted. And speaking of construction, this is indeed entirely brick built, and I modelled its construction more on the Lego Dots range. In that range, they made hanging pictures and photo frames, which were very simple and had a simple looped plate to hang it from. I used smaller square base plates. Azure blue and light yellow are two colours I hate in Lego, so they were perfect to hide away behind all these tiles. The edge is made with white plates, and I put a plate on top of all these ones to make my main surface, which I then tiled with the Mondrian design. It's not that heavy, so this hook is a strong enough connection for it to hang. To give you a sense of scale, here it is next to the Marilyn Andy Warhol set. It's a lot smaller. The real painting is actually 95 by 95 centimeters, so my version is around half as big in dimensions. You might not know this, but the official Lego art sets all use this method of construction with individual black plates that you can do one at a time. They eventually click together with Technic pins, but as you can see at my scale, that just isn't necessary. It also doesn't need to be that strong because my mock isn't that heavy. With the art sets, you do actually get an extra wall hanging piece. It's this black piece here, but I didn't need to use it. The dots one was fine. I'm sure you're familiar with Mondrian. Most people recognise the artwork, but maybe don't know the artist's name. I studied art at college, and it wasn't really until I did art history that I began to have more of an appreciation of his work. Prior to that, I honestly thought it was the biggest load of nonsense. I thought, how can this be art? It's stupid, and anyone could do this. But when you study how he developed as an artist, how his work transformed from its early work to the end, he was a complete artist. How could the same artist go from impressionist, expressive trees to Picasso-influenced cubism to then develop the art movement de Stijl and create these asymmetrical abstract forms? Followed on by creating this complex, almost circuit board looking painting of New York, which was influenced by jazz of all things. It's a really interesting journey. I personally don't like the de Stijl movement. I understand it, but aesthetically I don't enjoy primary colours and purely angular forms. However, I do find it appealing within their architecture, but the real breakthrough for me was understanding that Mondrian had tapped into something unsaid yet understood. It's the golden ratio. It's a very human thing that we are all tuned into. Proportionality and balance makes for a pleasant feeling and a pleasant viewing experience. And Mondrian's paintings in this period, especially these compositions, feature the golden ratio. I'm sure you know what this is. It is a number, but it's a way of understanding nature and growth. It's mathematics, it's universal, and it's absolutely everywhere. The Greeks and Romans held it with divine appreciation and applied it to everything, as did the Old Kingdom Egyptians and famously Da Vinci in his Vitruvian Man illustration. This piece by Mondrian has proportionality and balance. It all makes sense. Each line has purpose. The contrast of black and white, the balance of red, yellow and blue, even at different viewing vantages, upside down, to the side, whatever, it makes sense. And in Lego form, it guarantees these straight lines, these right angles. There's no wobbliness, there's no curvature. It's about maths and intersecting lines. And at first, I thought it was going to be straightforward enough to do, but it's actually tricky to get the scale right, because if it were too small, it wouldn't be possible because of the width of Lego tiles. So that is why I settled on 30 by 30 studs in dimensions. I am going to buy more tiles in future to get a more uniform look, and this MOC will come with me on the various conventions I've got this year, as it's quite different and I think people will like to see it. I might also use the grey tiles instead of the white ones to make it more accurate, even if it doesn't look quite right. Anyways, thanks so much for watching until the end. Please do let me know what you think. Do you have a favourite Mondrian painting? Would you like to see Lego make an official set like this? Let me know in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye!